December 1939, the forests of Karelia vanish behind a wall of snow. Soviet soldiers move forward, but men collapse soundlessly. No muzzle flash, no tracks, just a growing legend the Red Army can't explain. Before he became known as the White Death, Simo Häyhä was an ordinary Finnish farmer with an extraordinary trick, using the snow itself to kill over 500 invaders, all without being seen. What invisible method turned him into the deadliest sniper in history, and how did the world's most powerful army fail to stop him? This is the true story behind how one sniper's insane snow trick killed 500 plus undetected. November 30th, 1939. The Soviet Union launches its attack expecting Finland to collapse within weeks. On paper, the outcome looks inevitable. Nearly 1 million Red Army troops, backed by thousands of tanks and aircraft, surge toward the border. The Finnish defenders muster just 300,000 men, most armed with little more than rifles and a few dozen tanks. Soviet columns stretch for miles, their uniforms and equipment ill-suited to the frozen forests of Karelia. But the land itself becomes an obstacle. Temperatures plunge to -30, sometimes even -40 degrees Celsius. Vehicles freeze solid overnight. Metal sticks to bare skin. Rifle bolts jam with ice, and the wind slices through wool and canvas. Even experienced soldiers struggle to stay alive, let alone fight. The forests are dense, the daylight fleeting, only a few gray hours before darkness returns. Every step forward means wading through waist-deep snow, with the threat of frostbite lurking in every exposed inch of flesh. For the Red Army, the cold is a new enemy. Their tanks bog down in drifts, engines fail, and supply lines snap under the strain. Soldiers, many from warmer parts of the Soviet Union, are issued thin coats and felt boots that offer little protection. Frostbite claims more men than bullets in the opening weeks. Food turns to ice, water freezes in canteens. Patrols disappear into the woods and never return. The Finnish forces, outnumbered more than 2 to 1, have no illusions about their chances. They rely on speed, knowledge of the land, and the ability to vanish into the trees. Small ski patrols move silently through the snow, striking quickly before melting away. The terrain favors those who know how to survive. In these conditions, conventional warfare breaks down. The front lines blur, and the battle becomes a test of endurance as much as firepower. As the Red Army grinds forward, stories begin to circulate among Finnish ranks. They speak of men who can move unseen, who can wait in the snow for hours, even days, without moving. In a war where the cold is as deadly as the enemy, these specialists become the sharp edge of Finland's defense. The land, the weather, and the will to survive are the only advantages the Finns possess. Against overwhelming odds, every trick, every ounce of local knowledge becomes a weapon. Simo Häyhä was not a career soldier or a product of elite military academies. He grew up in Rautjärvi, a small village in Karelia where hunting and farm work shaped his early life. By the time he was called to serve, he had already spent years as a member of the Finnish Civil Guard, a local militia that prized accuracy and self-reliance. Marksmanship competitions, long days tracking game through the forests, and harsh winters gave him skills few could match. He learned to judge distance by eye, to control his breathing, and to move silently over snow that swallowed the sound of footsteps. When the Winter War began, Häyhä was assigned to the 6th Company of Infantry Regiment 34, stationed near the Kola front. His stature, barely 5'3", helped him blend into the landscape. He carried a standard-issue Sako M/28-30 rifle, a Finnish version of the Mosin Nagant, fitted only with iron sights. No telescopic optics, no specialized gear. For close encounters, he relied on the Suomi KP/31 submachine gun, a weapon favored by Finnish patrols for its reliability in the cold. Both weapons were rugged, simple, and well suited to the freezing conditions that ruined more delicate equipment. Unlike many snipers of his era, Heha saw no need for a scope. Glass lenses could fog up or crack in the extreme cold, and the glint of sunlight off a scope had already given away the position of other marksmen. Iron sights allowed him to keep his profile low, nearly flush with the snow, and trust the instincts he'd sharpened since childhood. He knew his rifle intimately. How it shot in the cold, how to cycle the bolt with numb fingers, how to keep moving parts free of ice. Heha's gear was stripped down to the essentials. He wore layers of wool and canvas, topped with a white camouflage suit that melted his outline into the snowdrifts. Bread and sugar cubes in his pockets provided quick energy during long hours in the cold. Every item served a purpose, nothing extra to weigh him down or betray his presence. In the forests of Karelia, survival depended on experience, discipline, and the ability to disappear at a moment's notice. For Simo Heha, these habits were second nature, long before the Soviets ever learned to fear the name White Death. Simo Heha's disappearance into the landscape was no accident. Each morning, long before the first hint of light touched the treetops, he moved quietly into position. He searched for low ground or a natural hollow, then began to work the snow with gloved hands. Dense, packed snow formed a low mound in front of his firing spot. Never too high, just enough to break up his outline and shield his movements from distant eyes. The mound served a second purpose. It absorbed the shock of each shot, preventing a telltale puff of powdery snow from betraying his location. Where loose snow would leap up in a bright cloud under a rifle's blast, Heha's carefully packed barrier stayed still, swallowing the force and the sound. He paid close attention to the muzzle of his rifle. In the cold, even a single shot could send a burst of snow into the air, visible for hundreds of meters against the white stillness. Heha pressed packed snow around the muzzle, forming a tight seal. When he fired, the snow muffled the blast, and nothing moved except the falling body of his target. Sometimes he would even build a shallow groove for the rifle itself, ensuring the barrel never touched bare metal to open air, reducing frost, glare, and the risk of a glint giving him away. Camouflage was more than just a white suit. It was a system. He wrapped himself in layers of wool and canvas, then pulled on a hooded white coverall that blended perfectly with the snowdrifts. Even his gloves and face were covered. He carried no shiny buckles or loose gear that could catch the light. Once settled, he lay motionless for hours, sometimes the entire day, his body heat slowly melting a shallow depression beneath him. The only sign of life was the faint rise and fall of his breath, something he worked to hide as well. At temperatures below -30 degrees Celsius, a single exhale creates a cloud of vapor that hangs in the air, marking a sniper's position as surely as a flare. Heha solved this with a trick known only to those who lived their lives in winter. He scooped a small handful of snow and held it in his mouth, cooling each breath before it escaped. The vapor vanished, leaving no trace above the snowbank. Soviet patrols scanned the horizon for any sign, movement, breath, a flash of light, and found nothing. The forest remained silent, the snow undisturbed. Only the mounting fear among the Red Army hinted at the presence of a hunter they could never see. Hour after hour, through biting wind and the ache of stillness, Heha waited. Each movement was deliberate, each shot calculated. Invisibility was not just a matter of clothing, but of discipline. A patient hunter, fused with the land itself, turning the frozen silence into his strongest weapon. A sniper's equipment can mean the difference between life and death, but for Simo Heha, the most important tool was the one he left behind. While other marksmen reached for telescopic sights, trusting in the promise of magnified vision, Heha made a deliberate choice. He would rely only on iron sights. The reason was simple and ruthless. In the forests of Karelia, even the smallest glint off a glass lens could betray a hidden position. Sunlight, low on the horizon, would catch on a scope and flash like a signal mirror, an invitation for Soviet counter-snipers and artillery. Heiha had already seen fellow Finns pay the price for that mistake. Iron sights kept him close to the rifle, his cheek pressed low against the stock, his profile almost invisible above the snow. Scopes forced a shooter to lift their head, exposing just enough of a silhouette to catch a trained eye. In the white silence of the winter war, that fraction of an inch could mean the end. With iron sights, Heiha became part of the ground itself, just another shape in the endless drift. The extreme cold added another layer of risk. Temperatures dropped so low that frost formed on metal within minutes. Scopes, with their delicate internals, would fog over with a single breath or crack if jarred in the freeze. A frozen lens was worthless, and a shattered scope left a sniper blind. Heiha's simple, rugged setup had no such weakness. He knew every line of his Sako M2830 rifle, trusted it to fire true, and never worried about a technical failure giving him away. There was no room for unnecessary gear. Every extra ounce was a burden, every shiny surface a threat. Heiha's kit was stripped to the basics: iron sights, a few rounds of ammunition, and the discipline to wait for the perfect shot. His choices were shaped by experience, not theory. He had hunted in these woods since childhood, learned to blend with the land, and understood that survival depended on not being seen at all. The rifle, the snow, and his own patience, these were the only tools he needed. This approach set him apart. While others trusted in technology, Heiha trusted in skill and the unforgiving lessons of the Finnish winter. By rejecting the scope, he completed his transformation into a ghost in the snow, impossible to spot, impossible to stop. Red Army officers began to notice a pattern in the snow. Patrols sent into the woods failed to return. Men collapsed without warning, struck down by unseen bullets. When the Soviets tried to advance in the Kola sector, they found the forest itself hostile. Each step forward brought a fresh wave of fear. Rumors spread quickly through the ranks. A single Finnish sniper was hunting them. Impossible to spot, impossible to escape. The name on every trembling lip was Belaya Smirt, White Death. Commanders responded with force. Suspected sniper nests were pounded with mortars and heavy artillery. Entire barrages fell on patches of forest where a single muzzle flash might have been glimpsed. Yet, the snipers' work continued. Soviet counter-snipers stalked the tree line, searching for any sign of movement, but only found silence. Each failed attempt to root out the hunter deepened the panic. Reports from the front described men refusing to leave their trenches, paralyzed by the possibility of sudden, invisible death. Officers recorded that some units stalled for hours, even days, too afraid to move through the snowy woods where the White Death was rumored to be waiting. The psychological toll was immediate and severe. Soviet soldiers began to see ghosts behind every tree. Even the sound of a branch snapping or the wind stirring the snow set nerves on edge. The Red Army's numerical advantage meant little when entire platoons hesitated to cross open ground. In the rare moments when Soviet troops did push forward, they moved in tight, nervous clusters, hoping that numbers could offer some protection against a threat they could not see. But the bullets kept coming, silent and precise. Desperate to break the spell, Soviet commanders ordered more artillery strikes, blanketing suspected sniper zones with shells. The ground shook, trees splintered, but the pattern of casualties did not change. The legend of the White Death grew with every failed barrage. In the official reports, officers noted the strange effect. One man, armed with little more than patience and a rifle, had managed to hold up entire battalions. Fear, once seeded, spread faster than any bullet. The enemy's greatest weapon was no longer its tanks or its numbers. It was the creeping dread that every snowdrift might hide the White Death, waiting for his next target. March 6, 1940. A single shot shattered the silence near Kola. Simo Heiha, the White Death, was struck in the lower jaw by an explosive round. The bullet tore through flesh and bone, leaving his face unrecognizable. Finnish soldiers found him unconscious, blood freezing on the snow, and rushed him from the front. Word spread quickly. Some believed he was dead. For 11 days, Heha hovered between life and death, his body fighting through fever and shock. He regained consciousness on March 13th, the day the Winter War ended. His war was over, but the legend had only begun. In the weeks before his wounding, Finnish officers kept meticulous records. Company logs and chaplain diaries listed 259 confirmed sniper kills by Heha's hand, each one verified by a witness. Some reports added another 259 by submachine gun. Yet, as stories traveled beyond the front, the numbers grew. Newspapers and wartime broadcasts spoke of 500, even 542 kills. In private, Heha himself kept a tally he called his sin list, estimating around 500 Soviet soldiers. No one could say for certain. The battlefield was chaos, bodies lost to the snow, witnesses scattered. What is certain? No other sniper's record comes close, before or since. Debate over the true number would last for decades. Some historians trust the regimental logs, 259, counted and confirmed. Others point to the higher figures shaped by rumor, pride, and the needs of a nation at war. The real total may never be known. The myth grew larger than the man, fueled by the impossibility of his feat and the silence that followed. After the war, Simo Heha faded into the forests he once defended. He spent years enduring surgeries to rebuild his shattered face. He refused interviews, avoided crowds, and returned to life as a farmer and hunter. When asked about his wartime skill, he gave only one word: practice. He never sought fame, never claimed heroism. The numbers remain uncertain, but his legacy endures, in the snow, in the silence, and in the uneasy space between fact and legend. Finnish military records confirm Simo Heha achieved 505 sniper kills in less than 100 days during the Winter War, using only iron sights and his now documented snow concealment techniques. His methods, packing snow at the muzzle, cooling his breath, and blending perfectly into frozen terrain, remain cited in military manuals worldwide. While some historians debate the exact number, all available wartime logs, officer reports, and Soviet accounts agree on Heha's unmatched efficiency and psychological impact. Key Soviet files on counter-sniper operations remain closed, leaving gaps in the full story of his battlefield duels. Today, military academies still teach lessons drawn from his documented tactics and his ability to alter the course of battle through individual skill. Simo Heha's legacy is preserved not only in numbers, but in every modern doctrine that values patience, adaptation, and mastery of one's environment.